Alright, so I guess while you're off doing the resin, I'm gonna go check out the Electro and Elemental Mastery changes. I guess let's see, what is the difference? I'm pretty sure this was like, I have to go back and maybe check, but I think this was like 28% before. It's now 48.8%. Okay, so let's head on into the Spiral Abyss. We can use the same guys as the dummies. Oh wow, okay. I was expecting more of like at least double. That looks like, I think it was like 550 before, so that's not even a 50% damage increase by the looks of it. Okay. Alright, okay, so let's look at Overload. If I remember right, I think it was like 200, 2,200, wasn't it? It's at 2,800 now. Wow, that is actually not anywhere near the damage increase that I thought it was going to be. Maybe the damage increase comes more from Elemental Mastery, so you have to kind of really stack an Elemental Mastery in order to see a significant difference. But let's check out Electro Charged. I think it was like 1,300 before, so now it's 1,700. Huh. I have to admit, I'm kind of surprised. Let's see what difference it does make if we throw on just a bit of more Elemental Mastery. And let's just place this with some sort of Elemental Mastery piece somewhere. So stat-wise, that boosts it up to, Jesus, boosts it up to 164%. So let's see how much more damage that is. Okay, so now it's 3,000. Okay. So, to be honest, I was thinking that it would be at least like twice the damage increase you'd see, but with low Elemental Mastery, like not none, but with low Elemental Mastery, it's actually not even a big increase compared to what it was before. It's like maybe 50%, not even that, I don't think. If you did stack Elemental Mastery, obviously, because of the Elemental Mastery increases, it would do significantly more damage. But the issue with that, of course, is that if you stack Elemental Mastery into a character, like, say, Keqing, it means that she herself isn't really doing much of any damage. So I don't think that's... I just don't really see that being worth it for the damage that you're getting out. Like, throwing on 187 instead of 48 or so on and so forth attack percent bonus is only netting you an increase of, like, 1,300 on Electro Charged. I think it's probably just better spent for attack percentage or other stats and so on and so forth. Now, at the same time, it's probably good to keep in mind that, like, if you don't have a Lion Drawer, for example, there's not a whole lot of weapons in the game that they're mostly kind of geared, honestly, towards physical a bit. Like, Rancor is just generally, say, physical. The Iron Sting, beforehand, I would kind of consider this to be just not a very good weapon, even for Keqing. It gives, like, a 12% elemental damage increase with 2 stacks, which should be very easy to obtain, but it is only a 12% damage increase, and the secondary stat is, beforehand, it was just basically pointless in my eyes, with a middling amount of base attack, so I'd honestly go for the Prototype Rancor before this. But now, since Elemental Mastery does increase, say, Electro Charge by a significantly more decent amount, this could be a better weapon to go for. It's still not really, like, I think the weapon of choice, but it's if you don't have anything else, then at least it's adding a decent damage increase. So basically, it kind of seems like essentially what I thought it was going to be. Perhaps even worse. I was really thinking it would be like at least twice the damage, and it doesn't seem to be anywhere near even that. It seems like maybe 50% for low Elemental Mastery. It might increase significantly, as I said before, if you put Elemental Mastery into characters, but generally speaking, putting Elemental Mastery into characters means not putting them into other stats. So that means you're losing out on the damage that the character is doing, and probably just with the amount that it's doing, I don't see it being worth for Electro characters, say like Keqing. Some other things, however, you could do as well would be you could go to Sucrose. If you're going with Electro Keqing, using obviously the Viridescent Variner set would be good so that you get significantly greater damage with your Electro attacks. And then the Swirl, since Electro Charged is Electro, would do more damage. But in addition to that, Sucrose does give, you know, Elemental Mastery when she swirls. So assuming that Keqing would be the person who is proccing Electro Charged, then you could be giving some elemental mastery that way. So that might be like an okay-ish damage increase. However, one of the issues I do kind of find with Electro Charge is it seems to flip-flop between who is actually proccing the reaction. And so if you end up proccing it with Zincho, and say you were proccing Swirl with Sucrose for Electro, then that'd be honestly a little bit pointless, because Sucrose gives elemental mastery to the characters who are of the same element that she swirls with. Now, with that being said, and Electrocharge still probably being the only reaction we want to use, and it's not that much better, unfortunately, with Super Conduct still really not doing any damage. I mean, 720 damage isn't exactly something I think to aim for. But also, with Overload still having the knockback, I just think Electrocharge is probably the only way to go for the most part for Electro characters. However, talking about the reactions a little bit more, back in like 1.0, I think, towards the end there, with level 80 Zhengling, with a lot of elemental mastery, investment in Sucrose, I was able to get overloads of like 7,500. So with these increases, you'd probably be able to see an overloads of like 11,000, 12,000 maybe. And Overload also has the effect where it is AoE. So if you can apply Overload to a number of different enemies and then blow them all up at the same time and have them all within each other's area of effect for the Overload, you could actually be doing some pretty significant damage. So that might be something to look into as well. But of course, once again, as I discussed in my prior Electro video, that's probably more for someone like Lisa or so on and so forth who doesn't really mind enemies being knocked away. The only other thing I can really think of doing if we're talking about, say, a few melee Electro characters like Kaching, would be if we wanted to use Kaching and then use Zhengling to cause Overload, then we may want to use the Anima Traveler, because the Anima Traveler ultimate drags enemies a good bit away, and so use the Anima Traveler's ultimate to drag enemies towards the wall, and then try to keep enemies against the wall, overloading them into the wall, and so hopefully not overloading them away from ourselves. However, one of the issues with Overload is that they tend to get flown away from the center of the explosion is, and so they'll still probably get flown like to the left or to the right, so I'm still not sure that would really work all that well. But it could be something to try if you give Zhengling a significant amount of elemental mastery so that she can really do a significant amount of damage with overloads, and then you could still maybe like basically just build Kaching totally normally at least as an Electro character. Then it might work where you can get a pretty significant amount of damage, but you will have to throw enemies against the wall before you do so. Otherwise the enemies are just going to be constantly being flung every which way, and it's not exactly going to be a great time.
Weird thing, when I pulled up my map, it was, for a second, it was in Chinese.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, that's strange.
I don't know why.
Huh.